Hello everyone! Today I have a really cool lightsaber build here for you guys. This is a commission for Joon. So this is going to serve as a general overview, guide, and look at what this lightsaber is. So Joon, I hope you like it, spent a lot of time on it, and it came out really well. So let's just get right into it. You're going to get this lightsaber. I'll ship it to you in its package that it came in from Goth 3 Designs. What you're going to want that it doesn't come with, well, I'm going to give you this battery here. I'm going to give you this battery actually I'll give you this one. It's going to be in this container. So you'll get the battery. You're going to want to get a magnetic ring for the force activation. Here you go. I can't get one for you because I don't know your ring size, and I figured it's easier for you to get one yourself. You can get it for a few dollars on Amazon. If you need the link, just let me know. I'll send it to you. Same with the charger. If you don't have an 18650 lithium-ion charger, I can send you one from Amazon, like $12. I'll send you the link to that. And then blade, 1-inch blade. I like the KR Pixel Stick or Pixel Strip installed blades. I think they're the most evenly lit, brightest for a good price. This one's from Saber Bay. I'm not sure they have any in stock right now, so you may want to keep an eye out for that, but I can also send you a link to that if you need. But you'll be getting this lightsaber, all of its extra parts, and the battery. So we'll get right into it. I'll show you the hilt itself. As you can see, I put on these little pillars. I thought this one looked pretty nice, but of course you can replace it with everything in here. I'll go into that in a little bit. But these things, they might come out if you shake it too hard. It depends on the angle and whatever, because they're designed to be removed. You pull them, here, let me figure it out. It's easier if I start here. So you pull them forward and down, and then they come right out. As you can see, it's got this little notch there. You have to put it in the hole in the top first, push it up, and then slide it in there, and then I like to pull it down in order to keep it in. But if you don't want the risk of them coming out at all, I would say just find the ones that you like, maybe put a tiny little bit of E6000 on it. E6000 is the best because you can remove it pretty easily. So I just like these ones, but you can replace them with any one of these. And then this is the crystal that I chose. I also have a bigger crystal for you that you can put in there if you'd like. This little pillar up top is held in place by E6000. Same with the crystal. So if you ever want to remove it, hold on to it, twist it a little bit, and pull at the same time. It might be a bit tricky, but you'll get it out eventually. It's just E6000 in there holding it in place, so no damaging. That's going to happen. So if you want to replace this smaller crystal with a larger one, you can. And then that little backing metal piece that you wanted to add eventually, you can just take these pillars off, and then you can just slide it in back here. From what I saw from the video you sent me, there should be enough space between the metal crystal holder here and then this metal portion up here. If there's not, you're going to have to go through a little bit of a process to get in there and remove some stuff, because this metal part and this metal part are held in place by two tiny set screws here, 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 and here, and then you need access to it. So in order to do that, you're going to need a lot of Allen keys. You're going to need to remove each one of these, and then each one of these. I might have it in my build video, me disassembling it for the first time, so you want to follow that. Then there's two screws underneath the control box area. You have to pull this off. You can just grab under here. It's E6000 holding it in place. You can just grab under here, pry it off, and then it'll pop off. But it won't if you try. It's not going to pop off any other way other than you like prying at it and pulling it. And then you'll have access to just two screws under there. You unscrew those two, take those out, take these out, and this control box, just give it a little wiggle and a little bit of a pull. It'll pull right up. And then I have enough wire space here. I pulled the wires up so that you had enough wiggle room to move everything around without damaging it. So just pull off the wire box, and you'll see all the excess wire going to the two buttons here. So it shouldn't interfere with anything. Now, you just have to unscrew this button, unscrew this button, and then take another different sized Allen key, unscrew that. You're going to want to use your fingers for this. You just reach in and twist it. I'm not going to show you now, but you can twist it. I'm going to tighten it here. Twist it left, of course. Take them both out. And then take another sized Allen key and remove these. Right now I have that one removed because it's the blade retention screw. That's what this is here. So, blade retention screw goes right here. There you go. So after you have all those pieces removed, then this whole section here, this metal sleeve, is super loose. So you can just lift it up, twist it sideways, and then you'll be able to have access to each one of the screws, loosen it up, adjust these up or down however you want, and that's how you can do it. And then you just reassemble everything back together. Now to summarize, take out the pillars to make it nice, unscrew these 6 button head screws here, take off the clamp card with the E6000 underneath, you just pry it off, take out the screws in there, wiggle the control box, pull it off, there's going to be wire, and then unscrew the button, unscrew this button, unscrew this, use your fingers to unscrew this, and then use another key to unscrew those, and then pull the ears off, and you're good. It's a lot of work, but it's actually not too bad. I've had to do that quite a lot while going through here, because I did run into a lot of, as you know, tricky things that were unforeseen. So, I'll get into that a little bit later. I'll put this back, and then I'll go into the extra parts you have here. You can see it's pretty easy to put these pillars back in place. And I'll also mention that if you notice, for any of you watching, I have a new desk here that you haven't really seen. I haven't shown you around my workstation quite yet, but new desk. I wanted to try a new camera setup for these commission videos. Now, moving on to the extra parts. These are the parts that came with the package. In here you have, okay, I'll just pull them all out here. There we go. There we are. So, we have these extra pillars. So you have a total of 4 little copper ones, as you can see, and then 4 of these silver with black lines. And then you have these little collar pieces. You can see that. I believe these are supposed to be magnets, but they don't really do much. They don't magnetize at all. So maybe the ones that you got sent by Corbanth, maybe that'll help. But you're supposed to put them in these tiny holes, put a little E6000 or something underneath it to secure it in place, and then it's supposed to hold onto the other side. But it doesn't. It's just not strong. There's no magnets holding anything in place. Don't know exactly how that works, but if you did want to add these, you can just put them on the thin neck section right here, and if you look, you've got a little bit of a lip right there, and that goes up, as you can see. It meets this lip. And then there you go. Goes in place just like that. So if you wanted to, you could add those things. So all these are cosmetic additions. Honestly, I have absolutely no idea what this thing does. Don't think it's useful for much of anything. No idea. You may have to ask Corbanth on that one. And then here's the large crystal. It's a nice crystal. There you go. You secure it with E6000 again. I use E6000 on everything in case you ever needed to tear it apart or do whatever. But E6000 has a really, really strong hold. So it's all secure. I'll put all these things back now, and then we can get into the actual working of the lightsaber. Oh, I think I put the, yeah. There we go. Now, to operate the lightsaber, you're going to need to unscrew the handle. Very easy. And then it reveals the chassis that I designed. I spent a long time actually designing this thing. The longest thing was actually printing it, because my printer kept failing, it kept making bad ones of these, and then I had to do a couple minor additions and changes to it to make it work. Let me see if I can zoom in on it to make this a little bit easier. There we go. So, I've got the OLED display, as you can see. if it'll focus. There you go, the OLED display. And then on the other side, I have the Bluetooth module. I cut out I designed little spaces in there for them, so they're pretty nice. Fits perfectly, doesn't interfere with the sliding on of the handle. Then you have the soundboard itself, if it'll focus. Where's it gonna focus? There we go. Soundboard itself. I had originally designed little, I guess a shelving thing above it to hold it in place, but I found with a chassis this thick and this wide, it actually has enough sturdiness to hold it in place by itself without shifting any of the size or diameter of the actual chassis, because that's an issue I've had with thinner chassis, with a lot of these very thinner diameter insides for lightsabers. The chassis is kind of thin, which means when you put the board in, sometimes in order to have the board be held in place, it also pushes the chassis out a little bit, which makes it have a lot of friction against the handle or the thing it's sliding into. So luckily with this one, it's thick enough to hold it in place, not change any of the diameter. Now, you have access to the micro USB and the micro SD. Micro SD is where all of the everything is going to be. You're going to pretty much not need the micro USB ever, especially with the Bluetooth, so don't really need to worry about it, but easy access there anyways. If you can focus, there we go. I also have a little shelf here, so you have good finger space to access everything, good USB space. And then these little design elements here, if you can see, this little, I don't know, curvature wing thing sticking out. I like it, so I think it added a lot to it. And then you have the negative spring for the battery, the positive end over here, and then you have little finger things to help you pull it out and put it in. So that's about it for the chassis there. I also had to design a NeoPixel holder inside here to hold it in place. You can see it, the black perimeter. I designed a holder in there to hold it in place. And then that's all I needed to do for this lightsaber. And what else is there? Nothing else about that, so let me just go right into it. I'll be using, I guess I'll use this battery. I'll zoom in a little bit. There we go. So it has blade detection, and what that means is the first fonts it starts on is the not working font, essentially. So when you turn it on, it doesn't sound like a lightsaber. And it's just white because it hasn't chosen a different color or whatever. And then when you put in either a lightsaber or a blade plug with a NeoPixel connector, blade side connector there, when you put that in, you just put it in, there you go. And then it switches to the working font. And the working font that I have it switched to is the Kyberphonic Fonts Secret Apprentice that you wanted. This one's the dark side one, so it's red. There you go, I have it just pulsing because I didn't like, there's a Starkiller blade style. I didn't like the way it looked with red because the white was very interfering with everything, but I did leave it for the blue one. So if we move on to that, you can hold the accent or the auxiliary. You go into sound bank selection, and here you go, you have the light side one. If you could tell a little bit, we have the flash on clash color cycling downwards here. And it's a lot less obvious with blue than it is with red because it's a white flash. So the blue looked really nice with it, so I left it. I'll show you briefly the crystal. So we have the localized clash. I'll show it on red actually. It's easier to see the flash on red. There we go. So, localized effects based on how you tilt it. If you hold it and point it upwards, the flash goes towards the bottom, which also ignites the crystal and makes it flash. Sorry about the loud noises, and if it hurts your guys' ears, I'll check the, I guess I'll check the leveling before I post it. So, there we go. This mimics the first pixel of the blade. Oh, there you go. Looks like it froze. If it ever freezes, it does it very rarely. If it ever freezes, you just take the battery out, put it back in. That's because I didn't disconnect the blade properly or whatever. Made it confused, because if you ever make the lightsaber do too much at once, a lot of complicated things, then it might freeze. But I pretty much eliminated all of the freezing. This is a little loose here. All of the freezing that was happening before, because before, one of the issues was the lightsaber tended to freeze quite a bit, and I didn't know exactly why. So what I ended up doing was adding what I figured it was and what actually fixed it, so it doesn't freeze like ever anymore. I added these OLED display screensaver type things, but this is the font BMPs, or whatever it is. So this is for calibrate. I didn't add that one. I did add this one. Found them on the CrystalFocus.net website and just downloaded them and put them to a semi-appropriate font.
I'm ready.
This one, you can't really tell because it's really bright on screen, but it says Delight. This one's a little Stormtrooper. But what I found out was the CrystalFocus tended to get really confused when it was generating its own OLED screens for the fonts that didn't have a predetermined dedicated screen for it. So when I added these, it actually made it freeze significantly less often. Like 90%, 95% less often.
Green.
This one is Luke from Mandalorian.
White.
It's a little Boba Fett.
Blue.
More animations. This is a little cat.
Yellow.
Little crystal spinning. This is Luke being electrocuted. Darth Vader. R2-D2. You can't really see it on the white background, but it's R2-D2. This is Palpatine. And then all of these ones already came with their own
CrystalFocus.
OLED screens.
Youngling.
This is General Kenobi.
Ancient. Audio play. SD system menu. Games. Exit menu.
So there you go. That was one of the issues that arrived. The other issue was when I was on a crystal. Oh, whoops, that's not right. Wrong controls. Sorry about that. That's my rabbit drinking water. But anyways, there's two ways you can go through the sound fonts. You can hold down the auxiliary button here. Hold it down, it goes to sound font selection. And then you can go forward by pressing the auxiliary, backward by pressing the activation, or you can go forward 5 by pressing both. So I'm going to go on green here. And then you select it by holding down either the auxiliary or the activation. But one of the issues was when I had this ignited, there we go. Again, sorry for the volume. This is at 75% volume in order to keep the speaker as safe as it can be while being fairly loud, so very loud. So one of the issues was this crystal didn't stay green the whole time. After a while, a random amount of time, could be 5 minutes, could be 1 minute, 30 seconds, whatever, a white color would just wash out the crystal and then it would just affect all the colors. So it sort of glitched this white in there. And I didn't know what was causing it, so I spent like four days talking to, I would say, the experts about this on the Facebook groups, etc. Mark Davidson, thanks to you for helping me out and spending so long just troubleshooting and testing this with me. You totally didn't have to do that, but I appreciate it because it managed to pull this off amazingly. But what happened was I was looking at the crystal, because I ended up replacing the NeoPixel accent, and I also ended up replacing the board, and I also redid some of the wiring as well in order to try and eliminate all possible options for why this was glitching. But what I ended up figuring out was I was looking at the crystal, or the accent, and it looked different than the images I've seen of those crystals, of those accents, sorry. And what it turned out to be was this is an RGB white accent, when normally you have an RGB accent. So in the config file, the LS2 timings, LS2 is the second data, because I have the crystal being controlled by the second data, the main blade by the first data, but the LS2 timings was set for RGB, not RGB white. So immediately once I switched it to RGB white, it works perfectly. And then the thing I was doing today was, oh, that's the battery level indicator. I pressed the auxiliary. That's battery level indicator. Can't really see it, but you see it's 2 marks down. But essentially, when it's on, I wanted it to have the flash on clash, like blade lockup on the crystal, but it wasn't doing it. It was just freezing it. Didn't know why. Turned out it was some kind of corrupted file, so I ended up getting a file that wasn't corrupted, again, from Mark Davidson. Thank you. And as you can see, it has the lockup showing on there. And what this does is this crystal is set to mimic the first pixel of the main blade for all of these. So the localized lockup, as I showed you, depends on the angle of the blade. So when it's angled straight up, that is when the lockup is on the first pixel, so it affects this. But when the lockup is further along the blade, at this angle, as you can see, it doesn't do anything. And I think it's pretty dynamic and I like it, so hopefully you like it. I think it's really cool. And then the flashes, or the blaster blocks, don't really affect it because it affects all the rest of it. And then the clashes actually make it flash white a little bit, if you can tell. You can tell it significantly more in person because cameras tend to wash out these colors, but there you go. Now, I guess I'll show you with the blade for all of these, and then I'll show you Bluetooth. And I'll briefly speak on this. This is 28mm speaker, 18650 lithium-ion battery. Now, let's get into putting this in place. I think I was mentioning earlier there's 2 different methods of changing sound fonts, and I think it might have frozen at that point, but you can hold down the auxiliary. I showed you that. That's the sound font selection. And then the second thing you could do is hold down the activation button while the blade is off and just clash.
Right.
And then it switches 1 forward, which is kind of nice. So I'll just leave it at that.
Sound bank selection.
So let me just put this in place first, and then I'll screw it in. Come on. Got confused because I already put it on the font it was supposed to be on. There we go. And I tend to like to keep pressure on it because if it ever gets confused or if it just disconnects and reconnects very slightly, sometimes you can confuse the board. So I just like pushing it in order to make sure the connection is solid the whole way through. And then I screw it in. If I can do that. Because normally you have the screw in and you just unscrew it a little bit, but since it came out earlier, I have to put it back in. Fine. I will do it the easy way. I'll just put it in here. And then I believe it's this one. There we go. So you tend to want to have it screwed in a little bit so it doesn't come out, see? And then it doesn't interfere in here. So you can just put the blade in, and grab the blade. There you go. Put a little bit of pressure on it. And then just tighten it up. There you go. Nice and solid. Let's show the force activation. So the force activation, you can set up the parameters in the Bluetooth. That's what I love using Bluetooth for, actually, is the magic calibration, which is what it's called. I'll show you the controls, but essentially you go into the remote control, go into the little text box, type in MAGCALIB, mag calib, which is the magic calibration, and then you just spin the hilt this way, that way, and then roll it. And then it determines the magnetic field around it, which allows you to have the I guess the magnetic distortion that it detects. It detects it best around the soundboard area, which is around here, this section. pretty cool. There's also another feature you can do with the magnetic sensor, but I haven't figured out how to get that to work yet. But essentially what it does is it allows you to give this to someone who doesn't have a magic ring and they can't turn it on, so it like locks the lightsaber. There's a couple different settings you can do that. All the settings and whatnot are going to be in the description of the video. You can go to the manual, the Plector Labs website, the CrystalFocus website. All of those are in the description, and then that'll help you determine all of the different parameters in the config file that you can change to make this do however you want. You can customize it however you want, and all the resources are down in the description of the video. So I'll show you tip drag. So I have that set up on here. This is 122 pixels. You can change it in the config file if that doesn't fit your lightsaber. But you hold the auxiliary button and then you clash at like a 45-degree downward angle. There you go. That's tip drag right there. You just clash and hold auxiliary at the same time. Just takes a knowledge of how to get that done right. You can color change by pressing both the auxiliary and activation at the same time. Go into spectrum mode, and then you just twist the lightsaber. There's also a couple modes where you like angle the lightsaber to change it. I like the twist the best. So you can just go and then select which one you want by pressing either the activation or auxiliary. But if you want to go into the blade profiles and such, let me go back to red here, wherever that is. There it is. You hold down the activation button or auxiliary, you just hold it down instead of tapping it, and it'll go into blade profiles.
Blade profiles.
And then you're going to want to twist it, and you can have all these other blade animations. I have 30 blade profiles, about 32 or 33 fonts on here, including the ones that you wanted to get. There you go. So all these ones, pretty cool. You can also play music by double tapping the activation, I believe. If it has music on there. Let me find one that does.
I'm ready. I let you live.
Those three are the fonts from the Kyberphonic fonts.
Red.
So you can turn it on by double tapping, or double tapping, play and pause. So I'll just show you the Bluetooth next. Let me figure out how to put this down, because this is the first time I've used this setup for showing off builds. That works. So, Bluetooth. There's going to be a little trick to setting it up for the first time, I think, unless me doing it has fixed it for you. But you're going to want two apps. One is ForceSync, which is that one, and then the other one is CrystalFX. I have those in the description of the video as well, the titles of them. Now, you're going to see on the Crystal, which one was it? The ForceFX? Or ForceSync, yeah, ForceSync. It'll come up as FSC BT909. For some reason, ForceSync tends to find the board first better, and it helps your phone find it. Then you just want to connect to it. It'll ask you for a code. It's going to be 6 zeros. 0000000. And then you'll have access to it. You don't want to use this app, though, for CrystalFocus Bluetooth. You're going to want to use CrystalFX. CrystalFX is meant specifically for CrystalFocus. Now you're going to want to connect to FSC BT909LE, put in the code again, and then it'll never ask after that. It's just a one-time thing for the device. And then here you can see all the different things here. You have the Blade Style Library, which is an online library that you can go to download and upload to your saber any of the blade styles that are on there. So it's pretty cool. It's not just limited to the ones on the config file. You also have, I don't exactly know what all these things do, but the things that are important, volume, you can change the volume here, and it changes all the settings on the actual board too, which is nice. It doesn't just temporarily change it or whatever. Firmware update is important, although it is on the latest beta, like the very, very recent one. So you won't need to change it for a long time, probably. Unless you ever get into it, and then you can. as it comes out. But you do that, bootloader, click firmware update, and there you go. And then remote control, this is what I was talking to you about earlier. Power on, power off, all the effects. I'll just show it to you. Clashes, blaster blocks. As you can see, it's localized up there. Lock up. Turns off.
Green.
Then it has all the other fonts.
White.
Gotta say, this looks pretty cool at this setup. Not just my floor that I've been using.
Blue. Purple. Yellow.
I'm just gonna cycle through all these to show you generally how they look.
You are as clumsy as you are stupid. Take your weapon. Let me done with all of your hatred. This is the weapon of a Jedi Knight. Yes. A Jedi's weapon. Nightfall.
And now we go into all of the fonts that are stock. Although I set up the blade profiles, I determined which one I thought sounded best or looked best with the font. I also adjusted the blade timings when I needed to. So it should be pretty cool.
CrystalFX.
I think we're halfway there or more.
Nebula.
There's quite a lot of fonts on here.
Nebula.
Gray meat.
Revolt. Sharport. The Force Unleashed 2. The Old Republic Crucible. The Old Republic Malign.
This is a sort of realistic fire effect, somewhat. But it's a fire effect.
Youngling.
This one's pretty cool. I always loved playing with this one. It's the Nyan Cat.
This is General Kenobi.
Two
You
more.
can't win. Let the negotiations begin.
As ancient prophecies.
But there you go. That is pretty much everything you need to know about the lightsaber. I will say one last thing that I did spend some time on that you wanted the crystal to pulse. So I have it set up to pulse. There you go. So I have it set up to pulse. It didn't do the disconnect sound because I'm already on the font here, as you can see. So I set it to pulse when it's not doing anything. This is the idle pulse. It shows the blade color. But one of the things I spent some time on was setting up different BMPs to allow the colors to show in sound bank selection. So originally it doesn't show this. It's just blank crystal, no light. So I made these very simple BMPs and added each 30-something font the color that matches the blade that's on there.
I'm ready.
So if you ever want to add future fonts and have the same effect, I would go to the sound font that has a color that matches the blade style that you want, or the blade color that you want in the added one, and then just throw it in. It's called Glyph BMP in the font, so you'll find it.
I live.
Red. CrystalFX.
So yeah, I added all these colors in there. And they pretty much almost exactly match the colors on there. There's a couple that don't quite match, but it's as good as I can get it. But you get the general gist of what color it is for the blade profile, which I think is pretty cool.
This is General Kenobi.
For the rainbow one, I didn't make a rainbow one. I made a purple one because I thought purple kind of worked.
This is General Kenobi.
Ancient prophecy.
Audio player. SD Sys Games. Exit message.
There you go. So that's everything you need to know about this lightsaber. I had a lot of fun and also a lot of frustration building this lightsaber, but it came out really, really well. I'm very, very happy with it, and I hope you are as well. It's super cool. Hope you get it nice and weathered if you want it, weathered like that. But with your budget, for this original build, I wasn't able to add any weathering to it. But I tried my best to make this as worthwhile for you as possible. Yeah, I think that's about it. You'll experiment with it and figure things out about it as you go. So hope you like it. It'll be shipping out to you soon. I don't know exactly when, but probably not this weekend because the post office is closed. But I'll be shipping it out to you as soon as I can. And this video is going to go up as soon as I can. But seeing as it's like 37 minutes long, 36 right now, but 37 by the time we're done, it might take a little bit for it to upload. But you'll see this, as soon as I send the link to you. But anyways, hope you like it, and may the Force be with you.